Hi guys, I'm James and welcome to Mostly Helpful. Now there's a new car in the fleet and it needs a service. So join me today while we service fully a Mark 5 Golf 1.6 FSI petrol engine. Let's have a look what we're going to use. Now this car hasn't had a service in 3 years and 40,000 miles. So I've had a good look through the documentation it's come with and basically it needs everything. So I've been to my local Volkswagen dealer and I've got all of this and we're going to cover all of this and we're going to do this in stages. Firstly, while we still are clean, I'm going to do the pollen filter because that needs to go inside the cabin. Next we're going to do the air filter, again nice easy job in the engine. Then we're going to do some Screenwash, very simple, and then just as things start to get a little bit messy, we're going to do the oil filter and change the sump plug. I've got my 4 spark plugs here and then I'm also going to do a brake fluid change. There's a little bit more involved with the brake fluid change, so I'm going to do that as a separate video. So let's start off with the pollen filter. So here we are at the front of the car. I haven't unwrapped the pollen filter yet. Just want to check when that one comes out that I absolutely have been given the right replacement. Hope your main dealer would get it right, but every now and then I've had things not right. So up here are 2 little kind of manual screws that you have to undo. And I always like to do this job first because when you go off and start doing oil filters and stuff, you get a bit mucky. And really you want your pollen filter to be as clean as possible when it goes in. So this then drops out like that. And then what we've got up here is, let's see if I can get it right there. You see the pollen filter. It's just, let's get the camera right. That's just, you can just see it there. What should happen is that slides. Oh dear, this really hasn't been changed in a while, is it? Let's pull this out. I really need a cameraman. And there we go. One pollen filter, genuine VAG part, dated September 2015. Okay, so it's only been in 5 or 5.5 years or so. It's not too bad. I've checked that part and it is exactly the same in terms of physical dimensions. There is a slight change in product code. So this has gone from a 653 to a 669. And I queried that at the Volkswagen dealer at the time and they said this was a revised part number. Don't know. Other things to note, interestingly, is that they both show as made by MAN. Now I said earlier in the video I've been to my Volkswagen dealer to buy this, and the reason for that is that this car hasn't had any servicing for 3 years and 40,000 miles. And I just want any future owner to know that I wanted to go to the main dealer and buy genuine parts. But in other circumstances, I'd happily go to Euro Car Parts if you're in the UK and go and buy a MAN filter. This one was £27. They will be considerably less at Euro Car Parts. So I think an OEM spec rather than a genuine would be just as good. There we go. Right, let's got that started. So then it's just a case of popping that back in, getting that up in here. That goes up like that. Then we just need to reattach our holder. Noting that the clips, and my torch is playing up today, the clips go in those holes. Just pop that all together up there and then slide. Just make sure that's in. There we go, clipped in. In terms of the cover, it's important, or there is a temptation to insert it like that and have this kind of underneath. But when I pulled it out, it's actually tucked in behind here. A little bit awkward, but what you need to do is slide that up in there like that, trying to make sure you get the holes lined up with the pipes, the pipes there, and then fold it back that way. It's going to take a bit of effort with it. So then that goes in like that. So the thing is, it's behind this plastic rail here rather than sat above it. And then just our 2 plastic screws. Where are they? Both there they are. There we go. In here, like that. All nicely done and neat. That's part one of this service, and that's that pollen filter done. So that's the old one, that's now going to go in the bin. I'm going to put all the links in the description below with part numbers that I've used. But next up, we're going to do the air filter. So to change the air filter, what we need to do is remove this engine cover. The whole thing comes off. And before we can do that, we need to unplug a couple of things. There's a connector down here, electrical connector. There's a, looks like a vacuum lead that needs to come off. And then also there's a pipe here, which is the air inlet into the main body of this engine cover that needs to come apart. This is the air intake pipe. It's normally just clipped in here. There's 4 clips. It would normally pop out, but somebody has done something of a modification to this one. But normally it would be, there's a clip here, there's a clip here, and there is some on the side. In terms of the 2 other connectors that need to come off, we've got to get this one off. That's a simple squeeze, and then there's the this electrical connector down here. Just need to be able to do that, get that one off. So I'll show you how to do that. So let's see if we can wiggle that out. Yeah, so that is now free. It should have undone at these clips here and here, but as you guys have seen already, this has been bolted together somehow and glued. They're really going for that. Anyway, that's now loose and free. The next one, as I mentioned, is this these things we've got to do at the back here. Ooh. And this one is a simple press and squeeze. So you just press on the top and the bottom, give it a wiggle, and out that comes. Let me show you. So you just squeeze those 2 there. Looking at this, what you need to do, and do it on camera, is pop a screwdriver in there, and then just lever it back until it clicks. See if we can get it to do it. Oh, sorry, in the top there, like that. It's a bit fiddly. And then once it clicks, you've unclipped it, and then it will slide out. There we go, it's just clicked. And then we should be able to slide that out. There we go. Off she comes. I knew that was going to happen. The simplest way of doing it, though, is it's exactly the same as this clip here. So let me demonstrate. Don't need to remove this for the job, but the clip is the same, and you just are doing that, and you can hear that click, and then you just push it back, and you click, and that's unreleasing it. Now, I tried this before the other day when I bought, or when the car arrived, and I know it's tough, but here we go. There we go, one side. There we go. Right. It takes a bit of effort, definitely. Let's complete this pipe out. I must point out, just a DIY, I'm not a professional. There we go. And there's our engine cover. These are the points where the cover is mounted to, the sort of rubbery. Well, that one feels a bit loose. I'm sure let's investigate that. And then that one there, and then that one there. We're going to do our spark plugs a bit later. Here are coil packs that sit over the top. Here's that connector that we were just talking about with that clip. But let's look at installing a new air filter. Now the air filter sits underneath here, so what we need to do is flip that over. It sits in this space here, and all we need is a Phillips or Posi screwdriver. There are 7 screws. Let's start with these 2 down here. And there we go, there's our old filter. If we just pull this out, well, it just simply lifts out. So out that comes. It's a bit pretty bad. Certainly done its job, let's say that. Let's think positive. Done its job. And this, yeah, as suspected, genuine Volkswagen Audi filter. So with that done, it's then just a case of taking the new filter and just popping it in. Let's rescue that screw that got away, and then flipping that back over. Now, in terms of putting this bit back in, it sort of needs to roll in like that. So fit it from the back here, and then get a nice sort of reassuring clunk. Let's just use that, and then, oh, sorry, yeah, we've got a tightening order, haven't we? Screw number 1 here. And there we go, all done. So, all back together, and that's now ready to go back on the engine once we've changed the oil and replaced the spark plugs. So in terms of Screenwash, I think most people know how to do that. The only thing worth pointing out is it's this one. Do not make the mistake of putting it in this one. That is your coolant, and that would be very bad if you put your Screenwash in that one. So this one with the obvious symbol. As we know, I've bought my genuine Volkswagen Screenwash. I have in the past had blocked pumps from Screenwash, different types of Screenwash being mixed. In terms of capacity, if your car is a regular car, then it's 3.6 litres. This car, despite only being an S model, so the base spec, got the winter pack, which means it got headlight washers, which means we've got 5.5 litres of capacity in here. I've no idea how much is in there, so I'm going to make up about 3 or 4 and see how I get on. So that's 3 litres made up according to the back. That's good for minus 16 degrees. So I'm sure we'll be good in the UK for that. And then it's just a case of pouring it in. Give that a little clean up. A tiny bit of spillage. And we're done. So with all the clean jobs now done, I've got changed, and everything that we've done up to that point used basic tools, screwdrivers, nothing more really. Because the first thing I'm going to do is remove the oil filter housing, which requires a 32mm socket. But before we do that, we must get the sump nut off and get that old oil drained out before we start mucking around here. So we're under the car, and as you can see, I've just hung a spanner off the sump plug here. It's a 19mm, and I haven't undone it yet. So what I'm going to do is just give this a gentle tap. Oh, there we go. That's nice and easy. And then just other things, of course, are that you should make sure your engine is not your engine oil is warm. I did go for a drive before we started this, although that was a couple of hours, 2 hours ago now, I suppose. Hopefully it'll still be warm. Right, here we go. Here's the bit where it goes everywhere. It'd be fun if it was completely bone dry. Oh, no, not bone dry. Right, sump plug rescued. Oil going into the funnel. Fabulous. While that's draining, I will leave that to drain, and then while that's happening, let's go and have a look at the oil filter. 32mm socket and just a ratchet in an extension bar. So it should have been done up, I think, to 25 Newton meters, so this shouldn't be too tight, but there we go. It's not too bad. I'm going to need something to put that in. And there we go. That's the old oil filter. So let's pop that in. That's where the oil filter was sat. As you can see, that oil is a bit black, and there's the old filter in there. So we need to separate the filter from the housing, which I'll do, and then we'll put the new one in. So again, as before, I've gone for a Volkswagen genuine filter. It's a simple paper element, I think. Nice compact filter, and you also get the sealing ring in the kit. So that just pulls out with a little bit of force. So what we've got here is a little rubber ring that we need to remove, and there's a tiny cutout to enable you to do it. Not hard. Need better garage lights. There's the cutout just there, so you can slide a screwdriver underneath and then you can just flip that over the edge like that. So that's the old one, that's going to come off. Go with the rest. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clean that up. So then, let's get our filter, and what we see is some clips on this end. Just check you can see that okay. Yeah, see those clips at that end there, and that goes in, those clips go in this end here, and then just clicks in like that. And then we'll get our ring, our new O-ring, and just pop that on. It's always a good idea to put a little bit of oil on it as well when we're reinstalling it, so we'll do that in a minute. So, new filter, new ring, all the threads are nice and clean and clear. I'm just going to put a tiny bit of the old oil on there. Let's do that. Just to help it slide easier when it goes in. And then it's just a simple case of putting it back in there. So here we are, torque wrench and the socket. This is the benefit of having a socket, and I've set it to 25 Newton meters. And here we go. And done. And that's it for our filter. So while I've been changing the oil filter up top, the oil has been quietly draining out down here at the bottom. Capacity of this engine's quite small, only 3.6 litres of oil, so not an awful lot to come out. You can see it's just still dripping, but what I've got here is a new sump plug with washer, which I'm going to install. Again, don't necessarily need a new sump plug, but it is always advised at the very least to change the washer. So let's try and get this in without spilling any oil on the garage floor. Nice and easy in, and then what I need to do is tighten it to the required torque, 30 Newton meters. There we go, 30 Newton meters. Again, don't always need to use a torque wrench, but I do find it really helps when you come to service a car later down the line when somebody has used a torque wrench, because then the sump plug comes out nice and easily like it did earlier. The oil filter done and the sump plug tightened up all correctly, the only thing left to do is to put some oil in the car. So I've gone for 5W40, this is a Golf product, and no pun there, is it? A Golf, oil for a Golf. And this is approved to Volkswagen standard VW 50500 50501. Again, as mentioned previously, capacity in this engine is quite low, 3.6 litres. I've got 5 litres here, so let's pour away. So there we go, there's about 3 litres just gone in, obviously not quite enough, but what I want to do is just get the engine running and then I'll do a final check and do the remaining top up. I'd rather underfill at this point and then get it right than overfill and have to correct that. We've done the filter, we did the sump, we drained all the old oil, new oil's gone in, it needs that final top up. Next job then is spark plugs. Now moving on to the spark plugs, we've got our 4 down in here. We'll go into a bit more detail in a moment, but covered by coil packs. As before, I'm using genuine Volkswagen spark plugs, pick them up at the dealer as part of the overall kit. 2 things required for this job. Firstly, we need to pull those coil packs up. There is a coil puller. I've seen people use pliers, but I'm going to use just a simple screwdriver and lever them out. And then the second thing you'll need is just dedicated spark plug socket along with a wrench. So we need to get these coil packs up, get these spark plugs out and get them changed. And the way to do this that I've found that seems to work is just by inserting a screwdriver here or where is appropriate, and then just applying a little bit of leverage on them, and they then just should pop up. There is apparently a tool for sort of grabbing hold of them and pulling them up. There we go. And then you can put it up. Now the next thing we have to do is unclip these wires. Again, I've seen it done that you can undo this wiring harness here and pull this one out without unclipping that one, which I may do. But these ones, where they're tight into the loom, I think our only option is to pull these connectors off, and then we can lift the coil packs up. Let's carry on getting the rest of these out. Well, there we go. So there's a tab here that we need, that in order to remove these you need to push down on, and just by applying a bit of pressure on that, and as you saw me just lever with the flathead screwdriver, that's popped out. So then our coil pack can come out, here it is, and then we can get access to the spark plugs. So with those coil packs out of the way, I've lined them up at the top here, kept them in cylinder order. It's then a case of getting a spark plug socket on your extension, on your wrench, and then let's just undo these. So they're all loose. Now let's have a look at the first one, see what kind of condition that's in after 50,000 miles. I'm no expert, but I think that actually looks okay. Certainly not black. A nice sort of coffee colour here. Let's have a look at the others. Oh, look at that. Genuine. Come on, focus. There you go. Whoa. Audi / VW spark plugs. Which isn't a surprise because they were fitted at the main dealer in 2015. A little bit grubbier, that one. Still not so bad. Again, similar to the first one, that one. Right, last one coming out now, and yeah, all good on that one too. And all genuine VAG spark plugs. So let's get the new ones in. So here's the new versus the old. Identical plugs coming from Volkswagen. Let's get that put in. So again, if you've never done spark plugs before, just a case of using your spark plug socket, which will hold your spark plug inside with the rubber insert, and then just popping it in there and doing it up with your fingers, and then we'll tighten them to the correct torque. Doing them up with your fingers prevents you from cross threading because you can feel it. Second one going in. So cold here today, there's 2 degrees. That rubber insert isn't really gripping them very well. Third one going in now. And the final one. Go. Ready to go. This is why you don't want to drop one. You've got these 4 prongs on the end, There's no way you'd if you drop one and bent that, there's no way you'd be able to re-gap it. Well, as a DIYer at least. And there we go. I'll leave that in there, get my torque wrench, and we'll tighten them up to the right torque. Having left my coil packs in order, I'm going to reinsert them in the order that they make sure the same coil pack is on the same spark plug as it was before. Pop that in there. So then this connector just clips back in like that with that click, and then you need to insert it into the bore there. So you get a nice little pop. It didn't quite pop. I suspect these are the original coil packs, and I have read while researching this job that there's a risk that by disturbing them one of them will fail. So the advice given was don't change your spark plugs unless you really need to, as in don't change them at 20,000 miles, change them at 40,000 miles. Last click, there we go, and there we go. Let's push that in like that. There we go. Clip that back. Check they're all in again. Nice and firm. Yep. Good. And that's it. Spark plugs all done. It was a challenge to get off. Hopefully it's a little easier to get on. Remember that mine had been modified over in this corner, so mine looks slightly different to what it should do. Right, all of those are clipped in. And then just a reminder, there are these two connectors at the back here. One is the electrical connector, goes in, there's it like that, and then this vacuum, I think, the connector, and that clicks in there. So make sure those two connectors are in. Next thing to do, check the oil. So looking on there, I'm in good shape, just below the max level. I suspect once I've started the engine and oil's got into the filter, that will drop down, so I'll just keep an eye on that. And there we go, that's everything done in the engine. Final thing to do then is to reset the service indicator. Now, if you've watched all the videos so far, you'll see we've done all the service. And at the moment, what happens is you get that ping and that spanner indicator to tell the owner that it needs a service. So that is what we need to get rid of. And the process for this is, well, firstly, let me turn it off and I'll show you. You hold this button down, you then turn on the ignition, you then release that button, and then you press and hold this minute button here. Now that is very difficult to do whilst holding a camera, so let me put the camera on the tripod and show you from outside the car. So with ignition off, hold this button, and then ignition on, let go of that button, and press and hold the minute button. Let's go of that, and then ignition off. So back in the car, ignition off, let's have a look. And there we go. No spanner sign, no ping, no service warning. That reset though will only reset it for 1 year or 10,000 miles. You'll need VAGCOM or VCDS if you want to reset for the long life, as I understand it. Right, let's check, let's make sure everything's working. There we go. Bonnet's still open. Going to run the engine for a little bit, check the oil levels, and then we're done. So there we go, guys. Just need a little bit of top up right there at the end as predicted, and we're all done. So that's pollen filter, air filter, screen wash, oil filter, and new oil and spark plugs, all done on this 1.6 FSI Golf Mark 5 2006. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that's helpful. and do look out on the channel for more car related content coming very soon. Thanks again and goodbye.